Moving swiftly along, we're back from communities to networks to technology and back again to networks. The 4 speakers we have coming on stage have extensive experience between them, from San Francisco to Singapore to right here in Seoul. These are leaders in their industry, both investing and accelerating incredible tech companies worldwide. Here in the heart of Gyeonggi province, we're at the home of many of these massively disruptive technologies. But how do we get these technologies to the globe? These next experts are going to look and discuss some of the trends in the companies that they're supporting and how they're making them global successes, whether it's coming out of right here in South Korea or San Francisco. How can we leverage these technologies and innovations to build essentially a better world and help these companies to scale up? So please join me in giving a very warm welcome to Caela, Tanjangco, Head of Asia at Endeavor Catalyst, Ling Lim, Executive Director at Market Launch at 500 Global, JaeHee Chang, Partner at Antler, and Austin Arensberg, Head at Okta Ventures. Woo! Let's go, folks. Woo, Caela! Delighted to have you guys with us. The stage is yours. Thank you so much.
I'll sit here. All right, all right.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Caela from Endeavor Catalyst, and I'm very happy to be here today to be with JaeHee, Austin, and Ling to talk about South Korea for global growth. And I think before we start, it would be very helpful if each of you could actually introduce yourselves and what drew you to Korea.
So I'll start. Hello, everyone. I'm JaeHee Chang, partner at Antler, Korea. What drew me to Korea is actually I was born here, made in Korea.
Awesome. My name is Austin Arensberg, and I run Okta Ventures. It's the venture arm for Okta. We're a publicly traded cybersecurity company in the United States based in San Francisco. And my connection to Korea is actually lived here for 2 years working for Samsung about 10 years ago, and also have a wife who's Korean. So have both family and business connections to the country.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ling. I am the Executive Director of Market Launch at 500 Global. And my relationship with Korea as well would be professionally, we work a lot with the government agencies in Korea. And we also have a fund that invests in Korean startups here. But on the personal side, I'm also a big fan of K-drama. So that's definitely what draws me back here all the time.
What's your favorite show?
Well, this year itself, it's Lovely Runner, but it changes every season.
Well, I'm glad we have so many fans here of the country, even those who are made here. So actually, to start the panel, maybe we could also talk about then, what do you think are the key reasons why South Korea is strategic as a hub for global expansion? Or if you can't think of anything right now, what would the country need to become one? Who wants to start?
I was going to defer to you, JaeHee, given the Korean.
How about I wait until the last and how you guys think first?
Yeah, I think what's attractive about Korea as a market for international startups to expand to would be twofold. One is that we do feel that that's really abundance of strong technical talent that's here in the schools, in the R&D labs, in the corporates itself that can really be tapped onto if you're looking to build a startup here. Secondly, the market is large enough such that as a standalone market, depending on which niche and which industry you're in, it's actually big enough to build a really good business here. And thirdly, now this is maybe a little bit controversial or requires a little bit more nuancing, but there are a lot of huge corporations here who have strong innovation labs, innovation arms, CVC arms, and who have an openness to look at startups and look at technologies. Now, whether or not you're able to partner with them to make something out of it is a question, right? But I think that's definitely that openness and willingness.
Yeah, I can answer a bit from 2 angles, one from Okta and then another from Okta Ventures. Okta opened an office in Korea about 2-3 years ago. And so that's our commitment to the country to try and come here and be able to sell to some of the large companies. Cybersecurity and identity specifically, which is what Okta works on, are universal issues. They know no boundaries, and Korea has a very vibrant market with large companies that have large cybersecurity needs. So ourselves and many of other peers are operating here in Korea. And then for Okta Ventures, on the other hand, we've made 40 investments over the past 5 years, about 3 of which are in Asia. So we have companies in India, Singapore, and Indonesia. We do not have an investment yet in Korea. We're on the lookout. And yeah, we would love to have an opportunity to meet more startups here, and that's part of the reason we're at the conference.
JaeHee?
Yeah, I think they already well said things that I wanted to highlight. So I want to speak more from a founder's perspective, why Korea should be considered as a global hub. One of the things that I want to point out is that Korea has a very dense and compact market. What I'm trying to say here is that this market is small enough so you can use it as a test bed. The data that you collect, the user that you can reach out very fast, and then very diverse people. But it's not just a test bed, because Korea economy is 10th globally in terms of nominal GDP. That means that this is not a mere test bed, but also winning this market means that it will contribute significant revenue contribution. So I think that's something to consider for the founders around the world, how the Korea as a global hub.
Okay, so I'm hearing a lot about market potential, well, for Korea. And I think in relation to this, I wanted to ask Ling then specifically, since you've launched other markets other than Korea, what makes Korea special?
Okay, so for a little bit of context for everyone in the room, so 500 Global, we are based in Silicon Valley. We have operations in all around the world. We've launched markets in Canada, in Japan, in Malaysia, Singapore, in Egypt, in Georgia, and of course in Korea as well. What I do think is interesting about the market here, and to be really frank as well, a lot of governments in different parts of the developed economies and developed startup economies around the world employ pretty similar tools in terms of really developing and launching the startup ecosystem. So the tools that are used would be grants, market access programs, equity-based programs, investments in startups, so on and so forth. What I feel is slightly different about this market and what the government here is doing is the openness, number one, to support startups in going global, but not just in going to the US. It's actually helping them go explore markets like the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, to Southeast Asia like Vietnam, and openness really to explore these new markets like Africa. And I think that that's what's going to be differentiating the Korean methodologies of doing things versus some of the other governments out there. And that's what I would also encourage startups who are here as well. When you're looking at market expansion, don't just think of the big, shiny Silicon Valley, but really think about where your market, where your product and service has a real edge, where your traction can be replicable, where your ideal customer profile can be found in those markets as well. So I think that's one unique part about Korea and the ecosystem. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for that. It's great to see the belief that the government truly supports Korean startups. And since you are actually based in Korea, maybe you could tell us a little bit more about how supportive the government has been, in addition to what Ling has said, and what you're seeing on the ground.
So Korea government startup support, I think, is very strong, very impressive. For this year alone, I think Korean government is allocating 3.4 trillion Korean won, if I'm not mistaken, which is 2.6 billion US dollars. And more than half of that is allocated to as a grant or guaranteed capital. So I think that really helps for the startups to kind of survive this very, very difficult climate. And also, Korea has this program called TIPS, which is Tech Incubator for Startups. program, which gives about 350 million US dollars for just for a grant. So it's a non-dilutive capital that they can use to develop their product and technology.
Okay, that's really helpful. And another thing I actually asked you backstage is, do you really need to speak Korean to do business in Korea? Does it give you an edge in the startup space here?
Well, Korea is a very homogeneous society. If you look into history and culture-wise, I mean, I think speaking Korean can be definitely an advantage. But what I see more and more is the generation and generation after, more and more people are able to speak multiple languages and then exposed to different cultures. So it's definitely getting easier now. And I think with the development of AI technology, and I think the language barrier will be much lowered going forward.
Okay. Well, thank you for that.
You know,
So
some
we
people have, if I was just having this conversation last night actually with some friends, the new Samsung phone that came out has an amazing translation service. I don't know if people have tried it or not yet, but some of these localized language models that you can actually put on the phone are going to make translation so much faster. So honestly, and even just when I was on the ride over here from Seoul, I was reading an article about Facebook and their glasses, and they also are putting large language models embedded inside the Ray-Ban glasses for instant translation. So some of these language barriers, while they're real, they may not be real for long. And honestly, I think we're about to see a huge renaissance in this. The other thing I'll make a note on this issue of language, so I lived here for 2 years. I unfortunately do not speak Korean. But when I tell people when they come here, I said, look, if you are having an issue and you only speak English and you're visiting Korea, just find somebody who's under the age of 40. They almost inevitably speak conversational level English. They may feel intimidated or uncomfortable. Even the Tada driver I had today clearly had not spoken a lot of English, but we were able to communicate slowly and have a discussion. So the new generation, to your point, JaeHee, they have been learning English for many, many years. They just don't have a whole lot of opportunity because it's a rather homogenous society here to use it. So the language skills are there, they're latent, they exist in the younger generation, and I think we're gonna see a lot more language fluency, and those barriers are gonna come down.
Do you want to add anything? Okay. I also like the plug for Samsung there that you did for your old company.
Well, I don't use a Samsung phone, but I do have an order out for the iPhone 16, and obviously they're going to offer out their iPhone AI intelligence soon. So one of the first applications that we're going to see in these large language models is less sending data to the cloud and a lot more of these smaller large language models being placed in electronic devices for things like translation. Translation will probably be one of the very first applications that we'll see that people will really be shocked by, and it will start happening in the next year or so.
Okay. Well, actually, in addition to that, since you already started commenting as well on what you're seeing in Korea on the ground, how would you compare it to what you're seeing globally and in the US and in the other markets Okta operates in?
Yeah, so we've made 40 some odd investments over 5 years, and about 25% of them are outside the United States, despite the fact that the vast majority of our revenue is still in the United States. So it's over 70-80% of our revenue as a company. Innovation knows no borders. It doesn't matter where you're based, where you're from. And when you come with that lens, it's less. I'll give you an example. When we made an investment in Indonesia, we don't even have an office there, just early few customers in the country. But we found a very interesting team that had an innovative solution, and we wanted to back them. And now that company can go off and it's expanding in Australia. It doesn't matter where these companies are based. It's really about what technology and innovations they have and their courage and capacity for them to sell outside of their home country. And so Israel is the canonical example of that, especially in cybersecurity, where we have 4 or 5 investments in our portfolio. They sell for maybe 1-2 years inside the country, tops, before they start to leave. So they immediately are hiring people in the United States, in Europe to sell their products. And so I hope to, some of those lessons can be shared, I think, with a country like Korea, where they don't have to feel that they need to even stay in their local markets. They can think globally from day one.
Oh, I really like that reframing as well. And I think at Endeavor, we do also believe that innovation can come from everywhere. So thanks for that sentiment. So if any one of you actually have great examples of Korean tech startups, is there anything here you're seeing that you're excited about in relation to this topic? None?
Okay. So I think Korea has always been famous for producing great startups in the gaming, the entertainment, the consumer industries. When you look at expansion globally and we talk about startups going global, those are very recognizable products that there are clear adoption willingness, in the US, and that was something that we just saw recently as well. But I must say that one of the things that we're really excited about that we've started seeing in Korea are companies who can do two things. Number one, they are in deep climate tech, and they have the possibility of going global. So this is a shameless plug a little bit, but I do have to, plug our portfolio company because we are really proud of that investment in them. It's a company called Orbital Bio. So they create biofertilizers that's targeting rice farmers. They are able to basically produce biofertilizers that can increase the rice farming yields while reducing carbon emission and reducing the chemical fertilizers that needs to be used. They're still at the pre-seed R&D stage, but the immediate markets that they are already going to be testing in next year would be Vietnam, before moving on with Indonesia and Thailand, and then hopefully later on take on East Asia as well. Now this is amazing because we then see founders who are again going back to things that they can relate to. And why I say that is because the founder of this company actually grew up on a farm. So his parents were farmers, not rice farmers, but farmers. And he managed to also find two other co-founders, one of whom is Singaporean, another one is Vietnamese, and it's actually an expert in microbiomes. So he's basically able to cobble together a team that, number one, is international, right? So the co-founding team is reflective of that international expansion plans of the company. So I feel like, venture is moving into that direction where we are seeing the delineation of, what impact is versus what a profitable startup that can, exit is.
That's really exciting. What about you guys?
You didn't make an investment, so maybe you
We'll
have
invest
no
after.
portfolio to
TBD.
PR here. But please share if you have any exciting cybersecurity Korean startup. I would also be interested in learning about them. I think from Antler Korea, we invested in a company called Refeed. And their main business is repurposing used cooking oils into aviation fuel, like the fuel for the airplanes. And if you are aware, it's a kind of global agreement and policy that will be implemented that all the fleets needs to use this repurposed oil. Certain percentage of their tank should be filled with this oil. So this company is actually doing the main operation in Vietnam because the team has realized that in Korea, the used cooking oil was already collected in system. So when they receive the new oil, they pour old oil into the container and send. So it's really difficult for a small startup with only 3 people to penetrate that market. And when they looked outside, they realized in Vietnam, the used cooking oil is not managed very systematically. It's just dumped into the stream or garbage. So they decided to go to Vietnam right away, and they have been doing great since then, collecting oil with their own hands, riding the motorcycle. Yeah, they really start from the scratch. And then up to date, I just checked with them yesterday how much oil they have repurposed, and it's 1,000 tons, which is pretty impressive. And not only they're collecting and repurposing the oil, but they're tracking all the data, where it's collected, and then in what process the each collected oil is until it's fully repurposed to be used as aviation fuel, which is very important to know because you need to know whether this is really a used cooking oil. You need to have this kind of the fact tagging around so that the quality of the oil is kind of guaranteed.
Oh, wow. How about you guys? Are you seeing anything? I know you said you have not invested yet in Korea, but are there any tech companies here that you find interesting?
Only a few that we've even been aware of, to be honest with you. You could make an argument in cybersecurity that a leading indicator of startup growth is, frankly, the population of hackers. And 100 miles north of here, there's a lot of really good hackers in cybersecurity. Obviously, the North Korean threat in cybersecurity is very real, and we have people imposing themselves as employees and deep fake technology, amazing things that are coming out of North Korea on the offensive cybersecurity front. And we would hope that Korea, which has so many viable customers for these products, we'd like to see a lot more founders jumping in to the industry. But yeah, it really hasn't happened yet. So reach out.
Yeah. I mean, since we're in an AI conference, one of the startups that we're really excited about as well, it's actually a company called Portal 301. So a pretty early stage, based in Korea, but looking to expand and I would say making pretty good grounds going to the US. So they're targeting basically the robotics manufacturing scene in the US in industries where it's pretty dangerous to have humans go out. Whether it's like ship cleaning in the nuclear plants or doing like industrial coating. This AI company is able to help the robots operators integrate their software and create that automation system faster and obviously cheaper. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I do think that we are seeing quite a fair bit of AI companies come up here.
Oh, wow. So it's been very exciting actually because all of your examples are Korean startups that are global almost from day one.
I think that's because the theme of this conference is Korean startups and going global, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's great to see so many exciting companies. And if there's any investors in the audience, take note. Before we actually close, maybe you guys could share as well if there's anything that you'd like to see happen in Korea before we close. Who there?
Does the Korean want to go first?
The Korean.
I think it's there isn't anything like out of nowhere I want this thing needs to happen in Korea. I think all the initiatives are there. Personally, I have a mission that I really want to help the great Korean startups to expand globally, and that's why I joined Antler. One of the key reasons was that because Antler has a great network to support founders for their global expansion. And of course, it's very important that you have a large market that you can address. But I think it's also important that this kind of being able to kind of get rid of the barriers of like language and culture and just like share your product and find the customers that who are in need of your product. Meeting them like with kind of borderlessly is quite important. So I want to see more Korean founders, like Austin has said earlier, to be really have no fear, right? Like it's not impossible. Once you start, you can do it. I think any entrepreneur who has started their own business has that grit and spike.
Yeah. Okay.
I think one of the things that's always difficult about ecosystem development is a lack of angel investing environment. And one of the things that's really struck me, because I'd lived 12 years in Asia before I came to San Francisco, was that prolific angel investors in San Francisco are 100% comfortable with losing all of their money on angel investments. And so what you're actually seeing is charity at work. And paying back the community. We are 10, 12 years into a startup ecosystem development in Korea, right? So we have Coupang, we have all of these lists of amazing, successful Korean startups. where's the angel community? Where are the angel investors that are doing 100 angel checks at 25K a piece? Only then can people from the an investor community needs to understand that you have to pay it back to the community that you were able to make your money from. And so there is plenty of successful founders out there, but I think we're lagging here in Korea from having those founders contributing back into the ecosystem. Thankfully, we have Antler and 500 startups, which are providing some of that energy into this ecosystem, but they're actually largely externally started groups that have come in here. So I would really like to see the Korean founder community step up and start becoming more prolific in the angel investing. I think they'll make a huge difference.
I actually really like that because in Singapore, we have pretty strong angel networks, but I agree that even in Singapore, the angel investors mainly still look at companies that have traction. They're not making really risky bets out there, and you kind of need that. And when you start seeing investors who are seed stage or pre-seed stage, but yet they are only investing in startups who already are in market and have traction, what does that even mean in signal, right? So 100% hope to see more of that. But my one wild card that I hope to see come up from Korea, but also from other countries would be, as we go earlier and earlier stage, I think we see a lot of countries around the world trying to compete for the same thing, to be the hub of startup technology, to be the AI hub and pool and everything like that, or to be the climate tech hub. But at the same end, everyone's employing, I would say, almost similar tools, right? You either send startups to go global or you attract foreign talent to come in. But what about grooming talent from a much, much earlier age? One of the key things that stops Asia from developing faster is that from an education perspective, at the school level itself, we don't encourage risk-taking. We reward students for going through a normal standard academic path, going through tuition, going to academies, doing well in school. And we don't reward risk-taking, we don't reward failure. We don't reward trying something different. And I feel that that's something that a government like Korea, and honestly a lot of others as well, could do much better to nurture students and to build that entrepreneurial spirit from the time that they're in middle school or high school. I would say that the only one in the world that I see really doing that well is probably UAE, as well as the Albertan government. They've invested a fair bit of money to build those resources and networks for young people. So yeah, I would love to see more of that here.
And I think that's a great way to end, to talk about mindset, community, and developing the youth for the next generation of entrepreneurial talent. So thank you for your time, and we hope you enjoy the panel.
Thank you.